Yes, just to remind you guys, this Thursday at 1 o'clock is the groundbreaking at the public safety.
2 o'clock, right?
2? That was 1.
That was 1.
I think it's 1, but I'll take it in 1 second.
I just feel like I'm persona non grata there, so I'm not going to.
I thought I saw it was 2.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
Okay.
You got that calendar?
No, you're showing up at 2.
They must have told me that time for a reason, right?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. We got a resolution on
If you're as accurate with the time as they were with the budget.
forfeitures of money. District Attorney's Office, do I have a sponsor in a second?
I'll sponsor it.
Okay, and any questions on this? I don't believe we have anybody here.
Who seconded?
Martin.
No.
Terry.
I'll second it, sure.
Okay. I thought you raised your hand out there.
We skipped a resolution.
Yeah,
I
we
did?
have to go back to what the Youth Bureau one.
Excuse me, what did I skip?
We went from Jeff to stop DWI and skipped over Youth Bureau.
Are you going
Oh
to
my
vote
God,
on the
yeah.
district attorney first?
Oh, I had that coming up. I didn't want Jeff to sit out there for another 20 minutes, Chairman.
You had it all planned, Joe, you had it all planned.
I did, I really did say that. Is there any questions? Come on, Quack, what are you doing
You
tonight?
sold me, I believe you. That's all.
Focus.
Okay, is there any other questions on this resolution?
Full board.
And so we move it to full board?
Yes.
Full board. Thank you. Okay. Now I have the youth alternatives in incarceration resolution. We're going to take $10,887 and just transfer it to another clerk typist, the way it says right here. And do we have a sponsor in a second?
Sponsor.
I did have it there, see that?
Second.
Second, Roy, and I don't have any answers to these questions because we can only look in there, I don't think so. Does the finance chairman know anything about this or not really?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we move it to full board and then have somebody there at the meeting if we need it?
Do we ask the clerk to ask a question?
Megan, you could correct me on this, but I believe that, it's my understanding that there was a senior comfort typist position in the budget and they filled it with the clerk typist.
So they just moved the money over
So
there.
they're moving the money from the one line to
What it
the
looks
other.
like.
I may not be fully clear on this, so we could
I
have,
think that
If you need any
That's correct,
clarification.
yeah.
Isn't a senior clerk typist
is higher,
is
it's
higher?
higher.
right. So they
So
downgraded
he's
it.
saving money, supposedly.
Okay,
No.
can we move this to full board or no? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the county attorney has requested an executive session. Now, we do it different than here than this city used to do. Do I need a first and a second for that?
Yes.
What's the reason?
To discuss litigation. I was at a conference this afternoon, actually all day, on one of our litigations with the jail, so.
To discuss litigation.
A motion.
Okay, we got a first and a second by Terry.
Can I?
All right, wait a
All we need
minute.
to do is notify the press if we're going to conduct any other business. After the,
Right.
Why don't we do the last committee first and then go into executive session so the press don't have to
Making them.
stay here. That's our education.
We want John to stick around.
Legislation, that's
We
education.
want you to stick around.
So we have a motion to,
Motion to adjourn, I guess, until
Temporarily.
after the next
Sponsor.
meeting, okay?
Wait, who's?
Take a recess.
Sponsor for
there you
that.
go.
Well,
Okay,
No.
hold on. We're recessing?
Yes, motion to recess.
motion to recess.
Terry? Second, Bob? All in favor of recessing?
Aye.
Okay, we recess.
Okay.
Next.
We may paddle differently, but we still get down the river, right?
Now you all have to stay for this. Like to call the meeting of the Education and Government Committee to order. First up, any discussion from committee members, legislators? Hearing none. Our second item for discussion is legislative committee structure. Last month I handed out a one-sheeter on some different options so that you could look it over the last month, and wanted to start that discussion tonight so that if any changes were to be made, we could make them set up the rules for adoption on January 1st. So I'd like to have a little discussion on that, and I think just to aid in time, I'm going to pose some general questions, and if we'd like to do some sort of a straw poll or to get the discussion moving along and see where it goes, and then we can all kind of give our thoughts on each of the different items. But to start off with, I guess I'll pose this question to everybody, and I know Barb's answer, she told me earlier. Is anybody happy with the 3-person committee structure? All right, so we have a couple that are happy with the 3-person committee structure. Is there anybody that thinks we should go back to a 5-person committee structure? Okay, so with that in mind, I think I'm just going to open up the floor for discussion on, first on this outline. First item I've got is the quantity of members, being either 1, 3, 5, or 7. To have an odd number and, having a committee of 9, we might as well just have a regular meeting. So, so I'll just open it up for what everybody's thoughts are on how many. I saw Bob's first.
I really don't think it makes a difference of how many we have, because we have the ability to speak within the committee meetings and basically vote anyways. So I think that the number, I have to ask, and I'm not hard and fast on 3. To me, 3 is convenient because you need a quorum, you've got it, you can do it. I really don't see where we're limiting any legislators by having 3, 5, 7, or 9. I don't think that there's. I'm not seeing the downside risk of changing it. And I actually think, to be honest with you, that over the past year, I found that sure we've had some heated discussions or we've had some disagreements, but as a body, I think we really do pretty good at keeping our composure and keeping the conversations going on topic. So that's why I support keeping it at 3, and 3 is 9 anyways.
Mm-hmm. I think Tom and then Duke.
For a long time, I felt that why don't we just have our committee why don't we just have regular meetings? We're all here anyway, and just whatever it is we're voting on, it just seems like we're got 3 people, and we're all here, just exactly what you just said. The downside to that is, I do like to have a little time to think about something. And if we just had full 9-person meetings as regular meetings, and just had, like for instance, just look at our committees tonight. If we were all here and it was just a regular meeting, we could have just voted tonight and it would have been over with on every single resolution because it would have been a regular meeting. I kind of was leaning that way for a long time, but the problem with that is, and I can understand why people wouldn't like it, is you don't really have the time to, when we bring something to the floor, to sit back and digest it over a week or 2 to say, hey, do I really want, or have those sidebar discussions that we have with each other. And maybe my eyes are open to something I didn't know if it's just presented that night. I like the larger number because we're here anyway. I wish there was a way that we could, I don't know. It's almost wasteful to say, let's have a committee meeting of the whole of 9 people, put it on for a full board vote when we already know how everybody voted at the committee meeting. So, I have mixed emotions about it. I've always said, and I still think that 3 is, I get confused nights when I come here, whether or not I'm even on a committee or not, and we're all talking anyway. So, I kind of like 5. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to, I agree with Bob. I think we work well together here. I don't think there's any, I think everybody's done a good job at, you know, playing in the sandbox, and I don't think it's been anything like that. It's a matter of what makes sense of how we do it, you know. I can live with this. I can live with continuing to do what we're doing, or be flexible and support the idea of doing something different.
Well, I would support a meeting of the whole, but in an informal meeting, a workshop. That's not uncommon to have governing bodies meet once formally and once informally prior to the meeting. And like Tom said, you know, at the informal meeting, that's really a time for more of an open or freewheeling discussion. It doesn't have to be quite so formal, perhaps, as during the meeting. With this particular group, everyone likes to participate, and everyone shows up for every committee meeting. Really, so I think a workshop would make sense. We're too small a body, I think, to have committees, and I'm not even sure that committee chairs are needed. I think it could be run by our chairman.
Martin, then Joe.
I think when we changed from the 5 to the 3, it was so that we could, the original was so that we could have workshops that didn't necessarily, like when the budget process originally, our first budget that we did, we said we can't have a whole committee there because that's a quorum. And then as we started fleshing it out more, we said, well, we're always going to have our committees in public anyways. So I think keeping it a 3 is no longer, it works, but is it what we wanted to? And I think we need time to digest and talk and stuff. And I like Duke's idea of having, you know, workshops. We go through the resolutions. You know, we have people to ask questions, and then 2 weeks or whatever later, we have the formal meeting.
Joe?
At first I had a problem with the 3. I really don't at this point, because I see that everybody's allowed everybody to participate in every one of the meetings. So I don't think it's really an issue at this point. If you want to change it, you think it's better, there's other better reasons, but I haven't had no problems with it at this point.
Duke made an interesting comment about the need for the chairs of the committees, and he also made an interesting comment about the workshop, which maybe that's the right word. I like the idea. I would ask your committee chairs if, I think the advantage of maybe having the committee chair is that liaison that department head goes to, so I could understand, but I guess, I don't know. I mean, I would take a poll from my department heads and say, have you really utilized, and has there been that much communication? If not, I agree with Duke. Let the chair bring up every resolution under just as a resolution, and have your discussion, digest it over a 2-week period, and move on. If those department heads really feel like they need that person that they can just pick up the phone to, I haven't, you know, had that happen, but I don't know.
Just, I
That'd
guess,
be my only.
in theory, and this would be probably a question, maybe, I mean, it's an interpretation question, so it would be a question for all of us to decide what we thought. But I guess my point of view on, I mean, with our 2-branch form of government, all resolutions, unless they're stemming from the legislature, the office of the legislature, an outside agency that is funded directly through the legislature, or the auditing division of the legislature, all have to go through the county executive's office, because ultimately the executive is everybody else's boss before it comes to us. So theoretically, while we as a body can subpoena, we can ask questions to anybody we want about anything we want, they're theoretically, before coming to the legislature, I don't know how much communication there should be between department heads. Obviously, as public representatives of the county, we should be involved and know what's going on. But that would be my only thought on that. Bob, then Joe.
I like the term workshop. I think that's a productive description of what we want to accomplish here, and it takes the politics out of the amount of people or how we discuss it. I do, though, think that it's important that we do have a liaison or a chairperson to be a connection between that department. And a perfect example is, struggling with the tourism thing. I reached out to Ken, talked to Ken, formulated some sort of an idea, asked the same questions that I asked of you. He's preparing a white paper. That gives us a conduit or a connection to get in there. As far as economic development goes, I mean, they have meetings. I feel it's important as chair of that committee to go there so I understand, so I can address this body when the questions come up if I can. So I think that connection is important. That continuity is important. But as far as the term of how we describe ourselves or what we do in meetings, I think we do have to be separate from the body itself for voting. I think even though we may have a discussion in the committee about it and everybody's on the same page, I don't think it's uncommon that one of us, two of us, five of us might walk out of a meeting in a week or two between the formal meeting and say, hey, you know what? It just didn't make sense. Bob was nuts.
You said it.
We do that all the time.
Right. So that's the why we should keep some sort of body and separate from the legislative body.
Joe.
The only reason I like the chair thing is because of the fact that you have people that like to have their interests. I would not want to do what you do. I would not want to be in government in whatever committee that you would have. The same way with Bob, I wouldn't want to be in working with Ken in economic development, but I do have some technical ability and I enjoy doing what I do. Terry does finance. He enjoys being responsible for that. I think it's, and you have the interest in what you do, and I can never do it. So I mean, it's like, that's why I think the chair thing is, or a liaison or whatever you want to call it, is important.
Terry.
And I probably agree with both of you, the legislator 9 and 8.
9 and 8.
But, and I think it's an avenue where the one person can get more involved. I just, maybe I would be a little nervous if the chairman took over the board, the actual committees, and we would lose some of the, we'll just put it all on the chairman. I think being chairman of a committee kind of makes you get more involved, and do some legwork and
Gives you some ownership.
Yeah,
Right. And it's what you like too. It's more or less, and I think that's where we've all wound up in things that we like.
You got any comments, Roy?
The only thing I would say, Chair, is that, ideally, I would like to see the chairman of the board on a yearly basis identify what he wants for committees, how many people, who the chairman is. And I would concur with your statement where I'm not sure that chairman of the committee should be a liaison with the department, and I agree that it should go through the executive.
All right, so I guess summing up, I think it sounds like, do we at least all generally feel that you commented, right? Okay. Everybody commented, yes? If instead of having committee meetings that we move things to full board and we talk about it, if we had a regularly scheduled workshop meeting, whenever it may be, if we keep our regular meeting on the 4th Tuesday, whether it be on the 2nd or the 3rd, that basically, if you will, resolutions would come before us, issues would come before us, we would review the resolution and the issue in its draft form, make any comments. If the if the need, of course, you know, if it would be, I don't know if workshop is defined as anything pursuant to, so if it would be you know, maybe it would be more appropriate to call it a regularly scheduled committee of the whole meeting, but in an informal meeting of some sort, that we could take straw polls if need be to put something together for the regularly scheduled full legislature meeting. And I think something that would maintain the things we like about committees while getting rid of what we think is just a duplication is if every year the chair of the legislature appointed liaisons, and we could stick with the same breakdown of 7, have 7 liaisons appointed that would basically, if there were issues, basically what the committee chair does now, except that at that workshop meeting or that committee of the whole meeting, that informal meeting, that liaison would report on verbally. We're not gonna, I don't think we need to do a written report on every single resolution and issue, although it might be nice. But that liaison would report on that issue to the entire legislature assembled in that committee meeting, and that the legislature could then go on and move forward with that. And that I think something that, you know, I'm going to throw out there now is we need to discuss what type of action this body assembled, so if it's a workshop, if whatever we're calling it, what type of action that body can take. And I would say that, you know, I think the sounds of it, it might be appropriate to have no formal action be able to be taken in a workshop meeting, almost like an executive session, that no formal action can be taken, but that, you know, something comes before us and we say, as it is now, you don't have 5 votes, but these are our thoughts. Go back to the drawing board and send over a new resolution, almost like a planning board's concept submittal process. Come.
Love the word liaison. I like that, where we could create an agenda that has each liaison listed so that we know we're going to say to each one of those guys, Bob, you got anything for us tonight? Joe, you got anything? Duke, you got anything? And yes or no. And if they do, they report it. The one thing I would say that, to the county attorney we may have to look at here is we need to make sure we still have an avenue that we as individuals can make sure that we can bring a resolution up. And how that resolution gets to the full board and not just knocked down by the chair doesn't want it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have that avenue of, you know, the resolution is submitted 5 days in advance and it's automatically on. And then as it comes before the workshop, it would need at least a majority of those there that night. Some sort of, you know where I'm going?
Yeah. Well, I think, and it's a very timely topic to bring up. You know, our rules, and I haven't discussed this with the attorney, so she may have a differing opinion. I'm sorry. But I guess any resolution or matter that a legislator wants to discuss still needs to follow the rules. That there needs to be a completed impact statement. Whoever completes that, it doesn't matter. It needs to be completed. And it needs to be to the clerk 10 days before the meeting that it's going to be discussed at. So anybody can do that now. Now, our rules, and carried over from our former rules, a committee chair or the chair of the legislature can choose to exclude a resolution. As per our rules, if that occurs, they need to issue a memorandum of exclusion stating why. Now, if we were having, I'm just going to call them committee of the wholes for the time being, if we were having committee of the wholes, the only person that could exclude a resolution would be the chair of the legislature. Still have to go through that same process if we maintained it. But there's always, the body assembled could always discharge that resolution from exclusion. Now, the other thought would be is we can take the exclusion part out altogether. And any resolution submitted by, if it goes through the executive department and gets approved and gets to the clerk within 10 days, it's on the agenda. If it's submitted by any legislator, the county auditor, any FM, whatever that avenue is, and it's here 10 days prior to the committee of the whole meeting, it gets included on the agenda. And then, of course, there's always, you know, the emergency resolution that you can, by a supermajority, place another resolution on the agenda.
Or stuff that happens out of discussion. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's propose a resolution to full board.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that
But,
either, as long as we
you know,
have
I
time
think-
to.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could make a suggestion, I would feel much better if we didn't bite this off all in one piece. And we took small bites and moved towards a goal and did each process properly. I think if we start out with the discussion of, are we a committee of the whole? What are we? This is where we're going to be. Are we going to have liaisons or chair people? I'd be real comfortable if we could start at that and then move on from that. I'm often afraid of doing a mass painting of the whole wall and changing everything. I may be wrong, okay, but that's my comfort level, is if we could start at that, I'd absolutely support all the way with it.
So with Bob saying that, is that something, what I'd like to do moving forward is I'd like to take our discussion tonight, draft up a redlined version of our rules of procedure, showing exactly what's being deleted, altered, changed pursuant to our discussion, and get that out to everybody, and then we can continue the discussion next month. But I mean, it kind of sounds like the workshop, committee of the whole meeting with liaisons is something that maintains what everybody likes and gets rid of what everybody dislikes about the current process.
You know, I can't tell you exactly how many years the former Board of Supervisors committee structure was in place, but it was a long time. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. We tried something the first year, we've changed it a little bit the second year. Even if this is something we don't like, if we did it in the third year, you can always go back to doing or a mix of what you did. So I don't mind giving this a shot. I may find out that I don't care. I think I'm going to like it, but you know, I think if everybody goes in it with that attitude, that we can still change it.
Well, I think, you know, there's basically what we're talking about is what we do now. If we, you know, call me a liaison, I get up here once a month and report to you on issues dealing with education and government, and we all discuss them. And the one difference would be action and, you know, what powers. It becomes a lot different when there's not separate committees, because it's the legislature. It's not the committee, it's the legislature. So.
I really don't feel that we wield any power being chair, to be honest. I never thought of the position of chairman to be anything more than running that discussion. I'm cool.
Yeah, sure.
A couple of months ago, Megan and I were going back and forth with Fulton County regarding different resolutions. And if you remember, John Stead, who's the Fulton County Clerk of the Board, what we received from them was unlike what we're used to, what she was used to. And she's like, what is this? So what they do at Fulton County, and I don't exactly know, and Megan and I have talked about going up there to you know, sit through a meeting. But it's my understanding that what they do is through a committee process, they don't actually have resolutions, they have discussion. And so they have like their committee chairpersons or whatever they're called, they have like a list like that says discussion, and it's got the list of potential resolutions that would come out of there. And I believe that they do that, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, once a week.
I'm not sure how often they do, but I know they don't have they definitely do it a little different. They use their committee meetings as the discussion meetings, basically.
Workshop, yeah.
But until if we go up there, I'm really not sure how they go from that to the full board. But the second thing that I just wanted to mention is that regardless of what process you use, just please keep in mind that you couldn't, it would not be possible to have like all of the discussions move from, from one meeting to the following week. I would strongly suggest it would have to be like a second and fourth week of the month.
Yeah.
First and third or whatever.
And I think the interesting situation that we're in is we're 9, we are one of, there's only one or two other 9-person county bodies in the state. We are the smallest. We're smaller than the 15 Board of Supervisors that were here. We're smaller than the 18 on the Fulton County Board. So I think exactly, what everybody said, we're all here for our committee meetings, or for every committee meeting. We all participate in the discussion. So I will take this and write it up, and we'll continue the discussion next month. Okay. Moving along, we have a resolution authorizing.
Just one thing,
yes,
if I might have.
Of course.
Martin has been collecting food for, this is not education, but before we all leave, Martin's been collecting.
We have a resolution.
Food for 3 weeks, and he puts it on his desk, and we always forget to bring things. Is it all right to give you a monetary donation instead, and if I could ask for support for the rest of this body, that
You can give it to Cheryl.
monetary?
So make it out to Martin Kelly for legislature.
You could just collect some money so that we'll
And then am I going to the grocery store?
just we can support that.
Well, I think if you're going to do that, make it out to the Beaumont runs the food pantry.
I'm just going to give you cash.
Unmarked bill.
Unmarked.
All right, thank you, Bob. Resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the contract with James Z. Architects for FMCC Student Union Improvements Project. I'd look for a sponsor in a second. Sponsored by Roy, second by Tom. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor of moving to full board? Very good. Motion to adjourn? By Roy, myself, we're adjourned.
Motion to come out of recess.
Your committee, whoever's on your committee.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Or bring it back, resume the meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
We come out of recess, right?
You just did.
Just
Okay.
Now executive.
Now we're going into executive session. I need a motion for that. Motion going to. Need a second for that?
Just to specify, is the entire legislature invited back to the executive session? That's at the
Yes,
committee.
you are. Is it all right?
Yes,
And
please.
it's for litigation.
You want us all here? Or?
Yes, I'll stay, please.
Wait.
We will not be taking any action. We'll have to make a motion to adjourn the executive session.
But, yeah.
It's
It's just.
a lot of executive session.
I'll make a motion to executive session. I make a motion to adjourn our meeting. All in favor, aye.
Jumped out.
You do for executive session. It's a city executive session.
Can we have Terry and Bob make the motion in second
Terry
to
and
come
Bob.
out?
Yes.
Okay.
And to adjourn.
Yes.
And to adjourn.
Make the motion, all in favor?
9-5. How about you, 6? Hey, you made a promise last time we were out in the parking lot.
Yeah, I'm good to go.